Well, hey everybody, Mr. Reeves back with you, and in this video we're going to be looking at the area of rectangles, squares, and parallelograms. All right, well, let's dive right in and get started. Let's talk about area. What is area? Well, area is the space inside a two-dimensional shape. All right, or we can also think of it as the amount of space that a shape covers, or the number of squares that it takes to fill a shape. All right, so you could see right here they have a rectangle and it says it has an area of 12 square units because it covers 12 square units, or it takes 12 squares to fill up the whole space. All right. By the way, the size of those squares correspond to the size of the units. So you can have 12 square inches or 12 square feet or 12 square meters depending on what your units are. If you take a look right here at this rectangle, it is 2 by 6, and if you count, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, or you can go 6 plus 6 is 12. The way to find the area of the rectangle is this formula right here. You're probably familiar with it. Length times width. All right, we've got a row of 6 and we've got 2 rows of 6, so there are 12 squares. 6 times 2 is 12. So length times width right here. There it is. Length times width is the area of a rectangle. Pretty straightforward if you know your multiplication tables, or if you don't, you can have a calculator handy. All right, so this example right here, it's 7 times 4. The length is 7. The width is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. So it would be 28 square units because they're just giving us units for the squares. All right, this one is 6 by 5. Well, 6 times 5 is 30. So this one would be 30 square units. This one right here, 4 by 4. Oh, I'm so glad they gave us a square. Here we go, because a square is simply a special type of rectangle. Many of you were introduced to rectangles and squares as different shapes, but a square really is just a rectangle that happens to have the length and the width being the same. So the formula for the area of a square is the same as the formula for the area of a rectangle, length times width. It just happens, since the length and the width are the same, you get a situation like this. So the area is going to be 4 times 4. But when you multiply something by itself, we call that squaring. So we get 4 squared, which is 16, and this would be square units. Okay, so for the area of a rectangle, the area of a rectangle we say is length times width. The area of a square we often say is the side squared, but it really is the same formula. It's just that s squared is s times s, where the length is s and the width is s. So you really don't need to know a separate formula for the area of a square. Simply multiply them together. In this case, we get 16. All right, there we go. Next question, the area of a rectangle with a length of 9 and a width of 3. Well, 9 times 3 is going to be 27 square units. Okay. Alrighty, so you can also just count square units to find an area because it's not a rectangle. So if you wanted to know the area of this shape that is not a rectangle or a square, we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that would be 11 square units. But we're going to focus in this lesson on rectangles and squares, which again, of course, are just special forms of rectangle. The third shape we're going to look at, the third polygon, is actually called a parallelogram. All right, so a parallelogram is a polygon when you have two pairs of parallel sides. So right here you can see this side right here is parallel to this side right here. That's our first set of parallel sides. And this side right here is parallel to this side right here. It is a parallelogram. All right, well, guess what? A rectangle is just a special type of parallelogram. In fact, I could take this parallelogram, and you see how if I slide that over, I get a rectangle, right? Okay, so the relationship is there for looking at what the formula is going to be. So if you take a look at this parallelogram, if I changed it into a rectangle, then I would find the area, and the area would be 8 times 10, which is 80, right? Well, you could see that the amount of squares isn't going to change because the area, the amount of space inside there, is the same as the amount of space inside there. So the formula for the area of a parallelogram, we say, is base times height, okay? This is our height. You know, you can recognize height because you will have a perpendicular distance. You see that 90-degree angle? A perpendicular distance between the two bases. So we can call this our base, or we can call this our base. They're both the same. All right, the height and the base will always be the perpendicular ones. All right, so in this case, right here again, going down to where we were, okay, this one is going to be 8 by 10. Let me move it back so you can see right here, this is my height, okay? There's my height, and right here is my base. This also is my base. That also is 10. Those two parallel sides are always going to be the same. So the area is 10 times 8, or 80. Okay, if we take a look at this one right here, okay, now this one's on its side, and so it could be a little confusing, but again, for the height, look for that perpendicular segment. Look for that perpendicular segment. And then the one that it connects, the ones that it connect, those are the bases. Okay, so the area of this parallelogram is base times height. Well, the base is 6, and the height, the base is 3, and the height is 6, so it's going to be 18. So here's our height, and here is our base, and again, this is also our base. The height is always perpendicular to the two bases. We can also see that if we slide that down, we get that rectangle that is 6 by 3. Do you see that? So we get 18. That is the area of that one, base times height. All right, let's look at a few more examples with parallelograms. Here we are in IXL. Again, they're giving us the formula. The area of a parallelogram is base times height. All right, again, when you're looking for that height, look for that perpendicular segment, and that perpendicular segment will connect two segments that are our bases. They usually only label one. This one is 6. You should also know that this one right here is also 6. All right, so the area is 6 times 8, or 48 square units. All right, all righty. This one right here, take a look at what we have. Okay, my height is 5. Can you see that height is 5? It's connecting those two right there. Can we get this to go away? There we go. All right, let me do this. All right, here we go. So right here again, the trickiest part, in my opinion, is finding that height. There's my height. And then remember, the height will always intersect the base. And then the other side that is parallel to it is the other base. You only need to know one of them. We've got, here is our base, and here is our height. So it would be 5 times b. We don't actually use this 8 here, okay? When we're finding the area, it's 5 times b. They said here that the area is 50, so that means that b would have to be 10. Our base would be 10. So the area divided by the base is equal to the height, or the area divided by the height is equal to the base. All right? Okay, and you can see here they've got an example of what we showed, taking a parallelogram and changing it into a rectangle. All right, let's do a few examples, and then we will be done with this video. All right, so these are some IXL practice on understanding the area of a parallelogram. So we have this parallelogram again. 7 is our height. 8, right? This 8 right here is our base. Okay, so we know the area is going to be 56, and you can see here they made it into a rectangle. The rectangle has to have the same height. Well, here's my height here at 7. Here's my height here at 7. Here's my base, so that's the one we're looking for. All right, take a look at this one. What's the height? What's my height? My height is 5, and my base is 6. We'll take a look at which rectangle. The height of this one is 7. That's not what we want. We want a height of 5 and a base of 6, and so our area is going to be 5 times 6, which is 30. All right, one more example, and then we're going to call it a day here. What's my height? My recommendation, you find that height first. My height is 5, and my base here is 10. All right, so not this one. That is a height of 6. Here's my height of 5 and my base of 10 and my area of 50 square inches. All right, so that is our quick lesson on finding the area of rectangles and finding the areas of parallelograms. The area of a rectangle is length times width. Length times width. Where's that formula? All right, there's my formula right there. The area of a rectangle is length times width, including a square. It's just the length and the width are the same on a square. And the area of a parallelogram is base times height, where that height is always that perpendicular segment. Look for that right angle. And the base is one of those two sides that it connects. Either one you can use for the base because they are the same length. All right, hope this was helpful for you in finding the area of rectangles, squares, and parallelograms. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.